And lastly, let's discuss Kibbe Soft Classic hair and makeup. Hair should be controlled, smooth, and soft, and makeup should be soft, well polished, and elegant. For hair, an elegantly clean outline with curved edges is what is best recommended for this type. Curls and waves are lovely as long as they aren't overly teased or cascading, and a well kept and meticulously groomed style is essential. Blunt cuts work for this type, but a very subtle layering to frame the face is important. Hair length should be moderate to long, but the longer your hair, the more likely it'll require setting to retain the stylization necessary for your feminine, sophisticated look. In any case, the key component of this type is that sense of polish and very high quality styling with additional femininity. So, curls and a sense of delicacy are beautiful for this type. And what's most important to remember is that an unkempt or uncared for hairstyle will spoil an entire look more quickly than any other element of your appearance. Here you have Lupita Nyong'o, Meryl Streep, Jessica Chastain in various styles, and I think they're doing a good job of having that done, kept, beautiful, elegant, and feminine sort of hairstyle in each of these looks. There's beautiful shaping and framing of the face in Meryl Streep's look with those sweeping bangs. In Lupita's case, the first one has that high puff, and for me, it's just very elegant. And she's found a way to have her natural hair, well, have natural hair extensions, but create that very sophisticated bun look up top, and likewise in the middle. That braid has that touch of femininity and intricacy, and I love that the bun at the back of that hair has that very rounded shaping. So very polished overall. And Jessica has those cascading locks, very stylized, and she just looks wonderful. And then that blunt look to the right of that is a lot more angular and sharper, but it has a gentleness to it. There's that framing of the face that makes it less severe, which is how a look like that can work for this type. And in that last look, Lupita just has a very clean and simple style of hair, and it looks very polished, very simple and elegant, very minimal hair on her head, but it's all in place, and I think they all look great here. Avoid severe geometric styles. So here we have Lupita again with short hair, but this time the severity comes in how she has chosen to edge that haircut. It's all too sculptural, almost too sharp in the edging. And then I think the worst offender is that it just meets in that very sharp line there that is too geometric for her, that completely lacks the softness required for this type. And then the hair is very flat as well, so there's a complete lack of volume, but then also the sharpness of the lines, and overall it's just not doing anything for her. In fact, it takes away from her. Avoid overly layered, wild, or mane like styles. So, here, this sort of hairstyling works to look very unkempt on Jessica Chastain. This is something that works for a natural type or natural essence type, that mane like, I woke up like this, very wash and go sort of styling. And on a classic type that requires that very polished look, this just looks like they forgot to do her hair. And Jessica really is not flattered by it at all. Avoid overly ornate, teased styles. So in Lupita's case, the ornateness comes with that drawn in detail. It just looks very separate from her. It's too youthful, too funky for her. This really is something that I think would work best either for a purely dramatic type with a very specific outfit where this forms part of that, or a gamine type where this is meant to be something more fun and youthful. But it has no aspect of classic in it. So on Lupita, it looks very separate from her, and I'm not sure what the inspiration was. I think it's interesting as an idea, but it doesn't work for her. It's just feeling a little haphazard and inelegant. So avoid this kind of experimental styling. And then in Jessica's case, the teasing of her hair and that very ornate sort of curling to the side is too delicate, too romantic esque, and it comes off as a bit too try hard for her. So I have the desire to take a brush and comb out those curls so that they become a lot looser, a lot more laid back looking and easy, because that sense of ease creates that sophistication. So I want it to look done, but not quite this done. This is too much, too ornate. Avoid wash and wear styles. So here again, we have Meryl Streep and Jessica Chastain, and in both cases, it has that feeling of they just washed their hair and they went, and they didn't take the time to really comb, brush, and process through it. They probably did a lot of work to their hair, but it looks as though all of that processing wasn't done. And this is a type that requires that finished product sort of hair. It has to look as though you did all the things, you brushed it and you styled it, and it's very elegant, and you just came out of the hair salon. And this is the opposite of that. And for both of them, it strips them of some sophistication and completeness to their look. It looks as though they still need to get through the hairstylist chair and then they'll be ready. I don't have an image for it, but avoid boyishly cropped styles. So, this is a type that has that femininity to them, and this becomes very important in the makeup and hair department. So, cropped, boyish styles are the opposite of that, and they will not look good on them. Interestingly, though, Lupita often has very short hair and she looks absolutely elegant and beautiful. But again, I do believe she has that gamine essence and that comes into play here. But for any of these other women, Meryl Streep and Jessica Chastain as examples, if either of them were to have a boyish cropped cut, they would not be flattered by those sorts of hairstyles at all. And lastly, avoid extravagant styles. So this style up top that Lupita has, that three, four-tiered spike going up her head, is incredibly impressive, and I love it for the intricacy of the style and just showcasing how incredibly versatile afro textured hair is. But it is overly, for lack of a better word, extravagant on her, and it becomes theatrical. So it lacks, again, that sense of sophistication then. And I want to have it be a little bit more subdued. It's just too much for her. So this is one of those things that becomes fun for an editorial type piece. Of course, it's too much for everyday wear, but I think even for red carpet events, it really detracts from her and it pulls attention away from her. So there's that lack of harmony with her. So to be avoided. Hair color should be soft and luxurious. Realistic and natural colors are best. Don't stray too far from your natural hair color. Lightening your hair a shade or brightening a shade is possible if your original color is blonde, red, or medium brown. And you can also choose low lights if you have those same color natural hair. Brunettes or people with darker colored hair should always avoid lightening or highlighting because the result is very aging and tiring, particularly after you've begun to gray. So here we have these women in what I think are some beautiful colors on them. I see this at play here in Kirsten Dunst's case with that very light blonde. That's obviously not a natural hair color for her, I don't believe. She's gone lighter, but it works for her because she naturally has a lighter color and she looks beautiful in that platinum sort of blonde color. And Jessica has a bit of depth and has some highlights and lowlights within the red of her hair. And again, that works there. Overall, it's solid, but there is that little bit of dimension given by that slight lightening, but it's done to her entire head of hair so it doesn't stand out and it feels very solid. And Meryl also has here different colors, slightly more reddish in the first look and slightly more brunette towards Kirsten Dunst, but always a solidity to the color. And in both cases, she looks great. And then with Lupita, she has dark hair, and I think she looks great because of how solid that color is. No highlighting, no low lighting, nothing to soften the color. Its power and beauty is really in its overall solid nature. Avoid unrealistic or theatrical hair colors. So, Jessica Chastain, I believe, is a natural redhead. And when she goes too light, this just looks very separate from her. It's too far outside of her natural range of color and it just doesn't quite work. Likewise, here Kirsten Dunst has those two colors going on. And I think the overall effect of this is a loss of elegance. So, this is a type that would want to choose a color. And she actually manages to look great in both blonde and as a redhead. But when doing both of them, it just comes off as a little bit not polished enough. That said, I do think that she doesn't look horrible here. This is from when she was much younger. And it's because she can handle youthful elements because I believe she has an ingenue essence. So this is something that should be absolutely avoided by the typical classic type with a classic essence. But she's an interesting case because of that additional essence in her that lets her get away with some things that others wouldn't. So she just has that overall youthful nature that comes off, especially on her face. And because hair frames the face, she can get away with very delicate and quote unquote childish elements. So she's a difficult one to pin this on, but in general, you want to stay away from this lack of sophistication in the coloring of your hair. And then you want to stay away from over-streaked hair. In these three images, there is a lack of boldness and solidness to the color of this hair. It looks as though they went to the hair salon, got it colored, and then it's been too long since that last appointment where the hair is starting to grow out and their perhaps natural color roots are coming in or their gray hair is coming in and it just looks like they're in between appointments. That sort of look doesn't work for this type because it gives them a lack of polish and sophistication. So, in all of these cases, and especially in Meryl's case, I really want to get them to get their roots done or touched up because it pulls away from them and it is something that you notice in them. Whereas on a different type, you might not notice that as much, and they might even be flattered by that growing out of roots and hair color. Makeup. A well polished makeup is a vital touch. Soft to bright shades, beautifully blended in a watercolor effect, creates your most elegant, slightly feminine face. A hint of sparkle around the eyes, rosy cheeks within your palette colors, and slightly glossy lips complement your image identity to perfection. Here we have these women in a couple of looks that I think really bring them to life. I notice a very clean palette, so a clean base in their foundation and a rosiness to the cheeks, but very subtle, and then a color that complements them on a lip that gives them that little bit of sheen and gloss for that femininity. Nothing stands out too much, nothing is too in your face or jarring. They just look very elegant and very beautiful, and this is what a soft classic would want to emulate. Avoid heavy contouring with sharp edges. This is too stark on you. All smoky colors are too cold on you. All neutrals are too aging. Overly sparkly makeup is unsophisticated, and any minimal, no makeup looks, as these are too harsh. So, here we have these women in these varying makeup styles that should be avoided. And let's just go from left to right. That first look, Lupita has that very stark black eye makeup as well as the very dark lip makeup, and it just looks very intense on her in a way that isn't flattering. So again, essences come into play because it's all holistic, and that does to her face what an overall dark color ensemble does to her clothes. It just pulls her down, and it's very separate from her, and I want very much to brighten that entire look. So the intensity is too much, but also specifically that darkness and coloring for her is just too heavy for her. Next to her, Jessica has that very intense eye makeup, and it really hardens her face. I can see it's her, but I had to look at her and really convince myself of that. So there's a separation between her and this style of makeup. It's not subtle enough, not soft enough, and her eye area is almost separate from the rest of her face. I also would like to see a little bit more sheen on her lips and perhaps a brighter color to really give her that sense of life and to balance out with the coloring of her hair. But this just doesn't work. And then there's that watercolor as well around her eyes. So it's not just the intensity of the eyeliner, but there's also that blended dark black green going on. There's a lot going on in her eye area, but all of it just creates this very intense, very stark and jarring look on her. And then Lupita to the right of that has that multicolorway eyeliner going on, and all of these colors are too much. This is too youthful on her, too childish, I should say, and it really lacks elegance and sophistication, and it doesn't suit her. And to the right of that, she has that sparkle in her eyes. And this is a type where, yes, they have the femininity, so some sparkle can work, but it has to have a sense of subtlety and polish to it. This is unsophisticated, and there's too much color on her face all of a sudden because that red against that blue, there isn't that palette working together. There's just too much going on, and overall creates a not flattering look on her. And then the last two are that minimal no makeup look for Jessica Chastain and Meryl Streep. In both cases, I want to give them just a little bit of makeup. Jessica, I can tell, is wearing makeup, but it's so subtle that it's not doing its job. So I want to give her some color to her lips, and that probably would make a huge difference and balance this out because I can see her eye makeup a little bit, but that color on her lip just gives her a very sunken look, and she doesn't look healthy, if that makes sense. So she requires a bit more sheen, a little bit more softness, and some color. And Meryl looks absolutely wonderful. But the makeup of the look is so subtle that I do also want to give her something else, maybe a shade of lipstick a little bit darker than what she has on. Now that I look at it, what might be working against her the most is not necessarily the makeup. Yes, I want to make some tweaks so that we can see a little bit more of it and it has that sheen and color. But the color of her hair and the fact that you can see her gray coming in towards the side there, I don't know if that's easily visible. I think that might be what's working more against her. So it's not even the makeup so much, which is interesting because, again, it all works together. But overall, a little bit more visible makeup would look great on her, although she does absolutely look wonderful. And with that, we have completed the soft classic analysis. And I would love to know if this is your type, and of course, if you agree with my assessment. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the sample wardrobe that I created for this type, I would love to give it to you as a free download. And keep in mind that it's not just the clothes that come in the document, it's all the wardrobe items, of course, as well as the accessories, but also a breakdown of the body type and hair and makeup. I think it's a very useful tool to have if soft classic is your type, to have all of that information in one place and to really help guide you along as you start to build your wardrobe. If you are interested in having that, please check out the link to the free download in the description box. And I hope it is very helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you like the content that I'm creating, or if you want to discuss anything I touched on in the video, please do so. Leave me a comment. Also, like the video and, of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. I'll see you on the next one.